Basically a acronym.
Yeah, it's an acronym, right? So we saw that it was Satan, right? And did you
Did you
guys?
guys?
Oh, quiet.
Oh, sorry.
A second.
Unmuted
Oh,
by mistake.
yeah. You gotta stay on mute, buddy. Okay, good. So here's the story. Let me just do this one other thing. I got to make sure that I'm allowing this. Okay, good. Okay, just one second. Okay. Okay, so we were one second. I'm allowing. Okay, I got a little technical difficulties there. So we were discussing this idea of Satan, and we saw that as Satan is rolling up to Eve, it seemed pretty convincing, right? And then we looked at that other one that woman from Tufts found, that FFALLL, that whole thing, right? And when we said that seemed pretty convincing too. And then do you remember we found one other one that you guys remember that? The Lost Taco, right? So what did Yat you thought that was real or not? Oh, you did think it was real. Okay, good. So we talked about how, at a certain level, once we get to a certain place in interpretation, we have to test our interpretations. We have to make sure that we're not, kind of pushing it too far. So anyway, I was pretty convinced that this Lost Taco thing was, pretty ridiculous. And then I started to poke around the internet, and it turns out I found this researcher, and he's a young scholar. He goes to Cambridge, and anyway, so he has found actually some kind of extraordinary research having to do with Milton, and specifically corn, because you guys know about the Columbian Exchange, this whole thing. So anyway, I was so amazed at this research that I contacted him, and he has agreed to speak to you today. So I'm going to invite him in. Are you there, Mr. Abram? Are you there? I can't hear you. You got to unmute.
Hello.
Yeah, can you guys hear him?
Yes.
Excellent. Welcome. So where am I speaking to you?
I'm coming to you from sunny Cambridge, England.
I see. Do people watch the Super Bowl in Cambridge?
What's that?
The Super Bowl?
Super Bowl. Um, Skiing?
Okay. Well, maybe you're too academically highbrow for that. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, I want to invite you. This is my class of 10th graders. We've been studying Milton. We've been looking carefully at the text. And I mentioned that I had found you on the internet. So you can go ahead and give your presentation.
All right, let me just share my screen here. Give me a second. Um, did that work?
How come that's not working? Why do I not? Ah, there we go. Yep. There you go.
Okay, everyone can see that.
Can you guys see that? Good.
All right, now I invite you to ask any questions that you want to and interject at any point that seems right. All right, so this is part of my thesis research, Milton Mays and the Columbian Exchange. Let's dive right in. All right, so this is a rendering of British cuisine during the medieval period. There was a lot of very watery soups, not a lot of seasoning, a lot of root vegetables like cabbage were mainly used during this time. And the cuisine would have been pretty bland. It wouldn't have been very tasty. It really would have been about getting that base level of nutrients. Um, then we have the arrival of maize and various other spices in 1492 with Columbus's journey to the New World, and he brings them back. Um, Great. All right. Early, am I losing you early, or you're with me? Okay, great. Awesome. All right.
Early is totally with us. I think
Okay.
you're particularly interested in this topic, so there's no worries.
Okay, excellent. All right. So then, right, we have the arrival of maize. So this is a rendering of Richard the Third's banquet coronation in 1483. We see a table piled high with all sorts of victuals. But then here we have an image of Charles II's coronation in 1663, so that's about 200 years later. Does anyone notice any differences?
Just look at the images, kids, because there are some things to see. Do you see anything?
There's a taco.
Wait, what?
Look in the front, like in the very first thing. Say top.
Oh, so awesome.
So who said that?
I don't know. It was John Savin, who's I think quite, he's very interested in food. Professor Abram, very interested in food. He likes to wrap various kinds of meats in wrappers because he's Vietnamese. So he's sympathetic to tacos to begin with as a topic.
Well, I have to say that was an excellent point that he made, and I'm pretty impressed. Tacos is actually exactly the right answer. The main difference between these two images, it is indeed, if we zoom in on that front image, there would have been tacos. So Columbus brought back, not just corn, but actually knowledge of cuisine from the New World. And yes, indeed, there would have been tacos in 1663. So it's actually not anachronistic to think that John Milton would have been writing about tacos. So yeah, John Milton. This is this is an actual painting by George Romney from 1732. And here we have the words themselves. Let us not slip the occasion, whether scorn or satiate fury yield it from our foe. Seest thou yon dreary plain, forlorn and wild, the seat of desolation, void of light? Save what glimmer of these livid flames cast pale and dreadful. There let us tend from off the tossing of these fiery waves, there rest, if any can harbor there, and reassembling our afflicted powers, consult how we may henceforth most defend our enemy, our own loss how repair. All right, so does anyone see anything interesting about the vocabulary here in this section?
Yes. Could you hear that, Professor Abram? Yeah.
I heard reassembling.
Yes.
Yeah, I have to say, Dr. Bresnik, I'm impressed with the acuity of your students and how switched on they are. That's exactly right. Reassembling, which obviously is a reference to the spread displayed here on the right. What do we do with tacos? We assemble and we reassemble. So the number of coincidences here, it's beyond the possibility of just coincidence. So I belong to the strict textualist school, and we basically take what's in the text and we say that whatever's in there has to be there for a reason. These are some loose textualists who subscribe to a more abstract model.
I noticed, can we go back there for a second? I noticed that those loose textualists are French. Gainsbourg, de Botton, Girard. Is there a difference between the English school and the French school? Do you think the English school in the strict textualism is a little bit more rigorous in the consideration of what would seem perhaps to be coincidences?
I think that's right. I think the French are famously loose when it comes to all sorts of commitments, whether they're literary or romantic. I think the French, they stray pretty far from the written word. Dr. Brosik, I was hoping you could explain the methanol hypothesis.
Well, the methanol hypothesis, do you guys know about making tacos? Are we aware of making tacos, how it works? Do you know how we make corn tortillas? How do we make corn tortillas? Who knows? John Savin, surely you know.
Tortillas.
Yeah, do we know? Yes?
It's like pounded meat, or it's fried in oil.
It is pounded maize. That's absolutely correct. You use masa harina, right, which is the corn flour. But the thing is, kids, in order to get that masa harina to actually cohere and not just become dust, you have to use a technique called nixtamalization. And nixtamalization means that you're adding lye. Does anybody know about lye, LYE? Do we know about this? It's very, very basic lye. They use it as a cleaning fluid. And lye can be very, very dangerous because, in fact, well, Elias, do you want to, Professor Abrams, you want to continue from there? I mean, what do you think? What do you want to do
Well,
about that?
as we all know, John Milton went blind at some point in his career, and he actually had to dictate most of Paradise Lost to his amanuensis. And people in my line of study actually believe that he might have gone blind from overconsumption of tacos, specifically maize products. We think that this is possible. So all of this is covered
Oh, go ahead.
in
Yeah.
my new book, Talkin Tacos.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Professor Abrams, yes.
So is my work a joke to you, Dr. Brisnick?
Oh, I thought we were going to get a serious academic presentation here. And I see this book talking. Who who writes an academic tome with that kind of a name? What kind of stuff? What's going on there at Cambridge? I don't really understand.
Yeah. Well, so this was my master's thesis. I turned it into a book. Um, Now here's the thing, children. I'm pretty fresh with my academic career, and I can't say that I've done it all exactly the way I would if I could go back. So this is kind of a sidebar from the general presentation, but let's learn from Professor Abrams' mistakes. So the first thing is when you're publishing your master's research, um,
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to laugh so much. It's not that I don't admire your work. I want to make it clear. It's not that I don't admire the work. I really do. I mean, it's groundbreaking, really. But
yeah, all right. Anyway, so basically, you're going to want to avoid publishing your master's thesis in a leather-bound copy because of the cost. Number two is you definitely going to want to proofread the title of your book. This is Talkin' Tacos with John Milton. Obviously, I meant Milton. And then third, if self-publishing, opt for an advanced 500 copy run before committing to a 10,000 book shipment. And number four is going to be avoid Swedish.
what's the matter with Swedish publishing houses?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened to me as a cautionary tale in case any of your scholars go off to do more advanced graduate work. So this was the
Excuse me. I've had something about, I don't know. I mean, really, but yes.
This was the mock-up that was presented to me by the Swedish publishing house of what sales of the book might look like through the year 2024. Yeah. And then I regret to inform you that actual sales of Talkin' Tacos have been lackluster. Lackluster in the extreme. In fact, they followed an almost logarithmic decline when it comes to day-to-day sales. So I was able to sell about 18 copies at that $179 price point in 2014, which I thought was a launching point. Unfortunately, every year since then, the market has absorbed fewer and fewer copies, and in 2024, I was able to only sell just 6. So this is an image of my study. I do have about 9,000 books up for grabs. On the right here, I have a breakdown of the rising cost of living in England. So as you can see, from 2021 just to 2022, inflation is just really run roughshod, as you can see. So I do need to sell some of these books. I was in negotiations with Dr. Bresnick about potentially getting Collegiate to buy each of you one, but we're still in that negotiating period. Dr. Bresnick, do you think so? It's 179 for the leather bound copy, and then it's there's this copy as well, and that goes for I think about 65.
Yeah, but you know, the problem is that some people may think it's actually a book on John Milton. So what do we do about that?
Yeah, uh, you know, it's interesting you brought that up, knowing that that was kind of a sore point for me in my journey. I think, I think enough people know about Milton and tacos and his interest therein that, I would imagine that would be pretty much disambiguated, no?
I guess I don't know the answer to that, but I can inquire here at the school. I mean, this is groundbreaking research, and we're into interdisciplinarity here. So the notion again of combining literary history with culinary history is well, it's something we want to do. We want to be cutting edge here at Collegiate. We don't want to be some kind of fuddy-duddy school. I mean, I've been criticized in this 10th grade curriculum for just teaching a lot of old books that collect dust that have nothing to do with the contemporary world, and so this feels real. It feels contemporary. It feels vital. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. So all of this work takes place under the broad umbrella of the Taco Studies Department at Cambridge. Um, and we're hoping that at least a few collegians will apply to the program for 20, what are we in, 2025? Are you guys seniors? Are you guys thinking of applying maybe to places like Cambridge, places like our Taco Studies department? Oh,
Well,
says we can offer
nobody,
certain.
nobody is interested.
Sophomores, that's a little bit early to be looking. Yeah.
They say they're sophomores.
Well, that's great because then you can even target your studies to something like the taco studies, and then you can have a more fleshed out application when you do apply. I think early looks like he's probably interested in maybe in a whole career like me in taco studies. As you can see, there's certain benefits. I receive an $8,000 a year stipend. And as you can imagine, Tuesday nights, all you can eat buffet every Tuesday. Um, and then there's also
Hold on, is that in honor of what we call Taco Tuesday, or is that just random?
Taco Tuesday was actually an invention of Keir Starmer in the Labour Party of the UK. That's actually where it originated from. I know there's a lot of ambiguity on that score.
So it seems.
All right, so I have some final questions just here just to break out. We've considered whether a hot dog is a sandwich. Have you considered whether it's a taco? And do other significant works of literature come to mind that rely on the taco as a prime motivating force of plot? Obviously, the answer is yes, but which ones?
We have
Yeah.
no suggestions on that. No suggestions on works of literature which the taco is the driving point of the plot. We don't see it. I don't know. Maybe your concerns are a little too rarefied for this group. I mean, it's a very sharp group. You saw this. I mean, the acuity, the attention, the love of literature. Do you see this, Professor Abram? I mean, you see this in my group, don't you?
They were on it from the word go, and I have to say, it's one of the most engaged groups of students that I've come across. I give this presentation daily to a lot of high school students all across the country, and frankly, they're usually less engaged. So I was very impressed.
Yeah. Would you be disappointed if they don't actually have any significant works of literature that come to mind where the taco is the prime motivator of the plot? I mean, would
I'd
that
be surprised because up until this point they've been on the ball and they're 30 or 40 classic works that come to mind. Does anyone have any suggestions?
I don't know. I mean, how about should we backtrack a little bit and talk about whether a hot dog is a taco? then would it qualify as a taco? Or has that, I have a question. In the taco studies department, has that question been definitively settled? Because that's the kind of scholarship you guys are doing. Is that question considered settled?
I would say like with any great philosophical question, there have been thousands of pages written on either side. It's an ongoing debate, right? We haven't answered the question of what came before the universe. We haven't answered the question of the three-body problem in physics, right? So we have a lot of working papers on this question. Is a hot dog a taco? Is it a sandwich? You can't just answer that. It's not a yes/no question, right? I think someone like John Savin is aware of that conundrum.
I think he's been puzzling that for a while.
Well, I have a question. Is there
Okay, great.
a rule for what makes a sandwich and not a taco, and what makes, I would say, is a sandwich have to be closed? Because a taco is a taco, not just a sandwich. Like if you don't cut the bread halfway and flip it to the side.
That's true. I think a taco starts off not a sandwich and turns into a sandwich once it.
Could you hear those things, Professor Abram?
John seems to be showing a lot of promise, and I just want to underline this $8,000 yearly stipend, and that goes for uncapped for 8 years. So if you invest that in the S&P, that can be a livable wage. So I'm hoping someone like John might be interested in that price point. And I'm hoping someone like John might be interested in our program. I'm not going to answer that question, John, because again, there's years of scholarship that might go into finding an answer to something like that. But you're barking up the right trees.
And would the Tuesday all you can eat buffet be only for tacos, or would it be for all types of food?
All right, now that was not your greatest question. Obviously, it's tacos every Tuesday. I didn't think that I needed to clarify that point.
You're hold on, you're not even going to respond to that? I mean, this is a child who's interested in your scholarship and you're just going to blow him off?
You got to preserve some of the mystery, Dr. Bresnik. I don't want to give away all of the hard-earned insights that I've won over now decades of taco research. So you got to apply to the program, and you got to go from there.
Okay.
All right. So this is actually true. Milton coined a number of words. All of these words here at the bottom. Does anyone want to read the words?
Yeah.
Maybe,
okay, earlier on. Yeah. Can you read them?
Hudson? No. Maybe Hudson.
Oh, Hudson?
Yeah. Awestruck.
Criticize, damn, debauchery, disregard, exhilarating, extravagance, incidental, lovelorn, stunning, horrific, unconvincing, and taco.
That's just fantastic.
Thank you for that, Hudson. I appreciate that. I don't know why that taco there is in a different font and color, but seems coincidental, unimportant. All right, guys, that's pretty much my presentation. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I have a QR code if anyone wants to buy that book. Anyone else? Anyone else want to weigh in here?
QR code right now. I don't know where that is.
What was it?
Cannot see the QR code.
Oh yeah, I'll send that to Dr. Bresnik for you guys.
Yeah. Are there other questions? Owen, yeah, maybe you can turn on so he can hear you. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Oh, it's gonna create feedback. I'll just speak for you.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I can hear you. I can hear you just fine.
Epics like the Odyssey, the Aeneid, or whatever have references of tacos mentioned in 40 or 30 other epics or classical works like this. There are mentions of tacos.
That is again very impressive from Owen. And I want to applaud you for that contribution. Whether there could have been, it's sort of like a History Channel Ancient Aliens thing. Could there have been corn coming across from the New World in 300 BC, 400 BC? It's possible. And it sounds like a fruitful line of study for a dissertation or for doctoral research. So, Owen, if you want to apply to the Cambridge Taco Studies Department, I will be putting in a good word on your behalf. John Savin, you too. Hudson, you too. Um, yeah. The Aeneid, it's possible. I'm not gonna rule it out, but I haven't seen anything about that specifically. Obviously, guys, obviously the book that I was thinking about with tacos that none of you mentioned was Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. It was pretty much chock-a-block full of references on every third page. Isn't that right, Dr. Bresnik?
There are, most people think he's referring to blinis, which are the traditional thing that are eaten in Russia with caviar, but that's a mistranslation. The word is blini in Russian, but it would be better translated as taco, soft taco, of course. So yes, but Professor Abram, there's of course the very famous book by John Steinbeck called Tortilla Flats, which would seem to be. I mean, that would seem to be a book that you ought to have considered. And the fact that you haven't written on tortilla flats would indicate to me that maybe, I mean, you're coming at us with this highfalutin research. And if you haven't written on tortilla flats and you're a taco studies major, I don't know. I don't really know if I believe in your credentials. I mean,
Steinbeck might be a major author over there across the pond for you Americans, but in England, his reputation is at about the level of a common comic book distributor. So we don't really think much of Steinbeck over here. So, I haven't encountered that, nor will I.
yeah. Yeah.
So it seems your thesis is very based around the idea of the corn tortilla, and that's how Milton went blind. How does the flour tortilla come into play for tacos in the ancient world or in classical works?
Wow, that's just another fantastic question. I really appreciate you bringing that to my attention. I'm corn tortilla specialist. That's where my research is. I don't want to comment on something that I'm not an expert on. Again, we're just coming up with topics and themes for future research that's really impressive. There's just a lot of strands to pull here. John, you had something to say?
I'm pretty sure a Bellini is made out of flour, is it not? And then
No, it's not. It's not. No, it's not. No.
Creme fraiche and caviar, I know that.
It is creme fraiche. I told you he's very interested in foods, Professor Abram, and very interested in wrapping. He likes to wrap. That's what he does. But no, it's not wheat. It's buckwheat. Okay. But blini in the Russian tradition made out of buckwheat has nothing to do with flour. Buckwheat's a different plant altogether. Is there buckwheat studies as well? Is there a subset of people studying buckwheat, or is it just corn and flour? And what about rice? I mean, do you even care about Asian cuisine, or do you just think, it's a bunch of bullshit, a bunch of people on the other side of the world, they're wrapping things, they're making dumplings, second rate compared to the taco? I mean, I'm sensing in your ignorance of the Asian tradition, I'm sensing a certain kind of insouciance, or I don't know, a kind of ignorance. I mean, look at my class; it's a lot of Asian kids, and they've been wrapping they've been wrapping meat and things. They've been using rice. They've been making dumplings, and the fact is, here you are, some dumbass taco studies program in the middle of Cambridge. You're not even paying any attention to like 2/3 of the people of the world who wrap stuff.
I don't know what prompted that broadside, Dr. Bresnik. I've taken time out of my day to come here and give you a presentation. I would have to assume it's because I am a published author with a book to my name. And I don't know that you are, ultimately. I know that you have an illustrious teaching career, but have you written a book? And have you sold 6 copies in 2024 of said book for $179.95? Mind you, the leather-bound copy costs about $129.95 to produce, so the margins are very thin. Again, that's why I would avoid leather-bound copies. But 6 books. How many books did you sell this year, Dr. Bresnik? That's all. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm busy teaching children. I'm not just sitting in some library talking tacos with John Milton. I mean, it's just not, It's not what I do. I mean, I'm engaged in, I don't even understand, but you haven't even answered the question about your complete ignorance of the Asian traditions of dumplings and rice flour and wrapping, as if it doesn't even matter. I don't even understand.
Sorry, does an epidemiologist also study, photosynthesis? They're different disciplines, right? The idea of me being interested in buckwheat, I'm interested in maize and tacos, right? So that's a whole subset that I'm focused on, and I don't see why I need to be interested in buckwheat. That sounds fascinating. Probably wouldn't be covered under the taco studies program, but you could apply. We welcome applications, and we could see if we could make if we could extend maybe some rice paper rolling, that could be you can make an argument. So we'll see. Early?
Yeah, so I can imagine this is of some controversy, but has there been any talk of you said that Milton coined the term taco. Might we see the modern day taco as a form of cultural appropriation, an attack against Milton, perhaps? Could that I'm assuming this is all covered in your book.
Wow, so that's wow. Again, they've gotten to all this stuff that is like in the third year syllabus of the taco studies program, right? It's like they're skipping past the intro course, they're skipping past year two. That's a third year question. Are tacos actually appropriated from British culture? And the answer is absolutely. But great question.
Thank you.
Really a distinguished group of students. Very impressive.
Yeah, they go to collegiate school. Have you heard of that school?
Yeah, I hear that you guys have a decent endowment. And this
That's all you know. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes.
well, probably wouldn't make a dent if everybody got a copy of Talkin Tacos. My cost of living yearly is about 20,000 pounds. So I need to sell about 200 books a year, would just about cover my living expenses.
Well, 200 books would be 10,000 pounds, right? And then you got the $8,000 stipend, so you'd still be 2,000 pounds short if it's costing you 20,000. I mean, like, I don't see that. I don't see you covering your expenses.
I also do a taco pop-up every Thursday at the refectory. What's the endowment over there at Collegiate?
It's big. It's big.
Isn't it like $1 billion?
I think it's probably $1.5 billion.
Well, you guys are probably making just an interest, like the entire you could probably buy all these books just with the interest from like a week.
Yeah, I think we probably could. I don't know if there's interest, but maybe we could. Well, look, this has been, I think,
in contact with someone who's superior to you in rank and station. I've heard of a Bodie Brisbane character, so I might
what did you hear about this Bodie Brisbane character?
His mouth. I know that she's a fan of my work, which I thought you were too, and I'm starting to have to question that based on that broadside that was completely unprompted about buckwheat. I don't really know where that came from. John, yeah?
So adding on to Dr. Brednick's point, if you go over to Africa, for example, Ethiopia, they have many dishes where it's some form of starch per se, and they take it and they rip it apart and they grab a piece of meat. Is that considered a taco? Because it is folded in half, it has meat and maybe some vegetables in there too.
Yeah, that's a great question. Talking about, is it called injera? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, injera. Fufu in the West. Very good.
I would have to think about this. I'm gonna say no. But the reason I'm saying no is probably not what you think. I'll get to more of that in 3 years, John, when you're enrolling in Cambridge in our program. All right, guys, that's pretty much all I have here. Last thing is Voltaire was the one to invent the burrito. I'll
That
just
was
leave
in
you with
France. That was in France in the 18th century. Am I correct?
that's right.
Yeah.
So that
People think it's Mexican, but it actually the interesting thing about that, right, is that burrito in Spanish. If you see this, Professor Abram, it means little donkey. Is that clear to you? Right? Are you aware that you know Spanish, or it means
yeah.
little donkey, okay? Because the burro is a big donkey. But what people don't realize it is actually a Spanish bastardization of the word was originally beurre, as in butter. It was a burrito because, in fact, it was made with a buttered bread, and into which beans and various things were put. And when it was exported to Mexico, it became a burrito. So you might want to work on that a little bit.
It sounds like a conspiracy theory. I don't buy it at all, frankly. Sounds like what do you guys also teach the faked moon landing over there, or what other conspiracy theories are you peddling?
Well, in the history department, they teach the fake moon landing. It's Dr. Keith is into that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I will be honest with you. I sort of blanked out midway through your sentence. Is he always this long-winded? Does he always take so long to get to his point? Owen?
As student, do I always take so long to get? Am I long-winded in that way? Look, the students aren't saying this because they're afraid I'm going to wield the grades as a cudgel, Professor Abram. But if you got them in your own session, maybe you want to have a Zoom with them alone later on and just find out about this, because they might tell you I'm long-winded.
Yeah, I mean, again, there, my eyes glazed over midway through that sentence too. I don't even, I'm totally lost. So let's just, I think maybe we leave it at that. Thanks for taking the time, guys, to consider this important question. And I appreciate your comments and concerns. Really, one of the most locked in groups of students I've ever come across on this important topic.
Okay. Well, look, we thank you. Thank you so much. And I look forward to, well, I will be ordering for the collegiate library. I will be ordering Talkin' Tacos with John Milton. We'll put it right next to our clock that says "Improve the Flying Moments." It'll be all leathery and it will look really good. Okay.
All right, guys.
Thanks. Enjoy your time out there in Cambridge. And, if you want, you can watch a Super Bowl replay. It's very exciting. We Americans, we really enjoy that. You might want to find out what that is. Okay.
Tomorrow's Tuesday, so I actually help out. That's part of making up the $2,000 deficit. I'm in the kitchen all of the rest of the day, so I don't even really know what you're referencing, but I'm not going to be able to watch it.
Well, thank you so much. And we'll see you again soon sometime. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
Ta-ta.
All right, see you later.